The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. Ooh, we're going to have ourselves a fun show this week, viewers and listeners. It's going to be a blast. Our show is going to be exciting. Our show is going to be interesting. It's going to be dynamic. And most importantly, our show this week is going to be unapologetically Canadian, because that's what we love to have around here. Our guest this week, Canadian producer, artist, all-around talented streamer, wonderful human being, Clara Venice is going to be joining us. She is been dubbed by the press, from what I have been told, quote, Canada's theremin prodigy, which might just be the three most wonderful words ever put together. Like Canada, already great. We all love Canada. Theremin, I mean, a theremin player on Break the Business. The fact that it's taken us this long to get a theremin player on Break the Business is an outrage, and I'm so glad we're finally fixing it after nearly 10 years on the air. And she's a prodigy, which means she's really, really good at it, which means she can probably do more than what I can do on the theremin, which is just kind of make it go... Like, she can actually do cool things with it. And so we're going to be excited to talk to her all about that, talk to her about her artistry, talk to her about how amazing her website is, and talk to her about what I think is a really cool movement of hers, in which she's dedicated a big part of her career to trying to make music gear more accessible to people. And I'm excited to talk to her all about that. This is going to be a blast. Oh, Canada's theremin prodigy. I love this. I actually love this because one of our favorite all-time Break the Business guests was a Canadian piano player named Martin Mayer, who we had on a few times, who was dubbed Canada's Prince of Piano by the press. So on Break the Business, we have now had Canada's Prince of Piano and Canada's theremin prodigy. We are slowly filling out the great Canadian orchestra. We have a piano player, we have a theremin player, just like another 80-something instruments left to go, and we have the Canadian orchestra all laid out. But everybody knows, if you're going to have a great Canadian band, you got to start with a great piano player and theremin player, and so we're well on our way there. Let's go ahead and bring out our co-host this week. Always a joy to be chatting with musician, podcaster, consultant, coach, Katie Zaccardi. Hi, Katie. And I think we got her muted.
Every time. I was just going to say, it feels like I'm letting you down that I'm not Canadian tonight, or any night for that matter. But
It really does pain me. Like, I mean, the only thing that could make you better, because you got a lot of great stuff going for you, all right? It's no secret. I'm a Katie Zaccardi fan. Between like the great advice you give and the knitting and like the random astrology, you bring a lot of fun stuff to the table. But you're not Canadian, which kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie.
Although I will say, many a show you have introduced me as America's sweetheart. So I don't know. You didn't do it tonight, and I guess we know why. It's Canada's ruling the show tonight.
Wait, I mean, our Canadian friend's not going to really care very much about being America's sweetheart. Like, I don't know if you've heard, but like Canada and America not really on the best terms right now. If I tell Canada's theremin prodigy that America's sweetheart is here, she might storm off the show.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. We need to keep the peace.
But I will say this, since you are our resident astrology girly around here, I have been told that Clara Venice is something of an astrology person herself. So maybe I'll just kind of leave you two to like just take over the interview and talk about all that stuff and just have a grand old time.
See yourself out. Before you leave, just let us know your birth date, time, and place, and we'll take care of the rest.
Love it. Wanted to chat with you first before we get into some of the heavier topics this week that I think are you're pretty well suited to chat with us about, Katie. Wanted to talk to you about my just overwhelming outrage, is how I would put it, at the recent Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announcement. So last week, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced its 2025 class, and overall, pretty happy with a lot of the selections. A lot of those bands, like, it's easy to think, like, man, how are they already not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Like, when you hear Soundgarden has been elected, you're like, oh, that's great. Why did that happen, like, I don't know, 10 years ago? But either way, that's very, very cool. Another name that I thought was cool that they threw in there, kind of a blast from the past, but really an important figure in rock and roll that a lot of folks don't know about, Carol Kaye, the legendary bass player, member of the original Wrecking Crew, played on a ton of those really great Beach Boys records. Love that she's in there. Love that Outkast got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's really, really cool. But the one that's got me oh so mad, Katie Zaccardi, just hopping mad, is that they have snubbed somebody who I believe is, I mean, if I'm making like if I'm counting on my hand, like the greatest pop artists of all time,
Yeah.
Mariah Carey is on this first hand and might even like be in the first 2 or 3 fingers.
Right.
But they snubbed Mariah Carey. And I'm not saying like they just didn't elect her at all. Like they nominated her. So she was on their radar for this year, but they just decided we're not going to put her in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that just makes me so mad. Because I'll tell you what they didn't put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They didn't put in 200 million albums sold. They didn't put in the current record holder for most #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 with 19, a 5-time Grammy winner, a member of the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Apparently, all of that impressive resume, that I stand alone on the top of pop music mountain resume, not good enough for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'm just so cheesed off about it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I am not the Mariah lover that you are, but I support your outrage. And here's what I'll say. I don't think Mariah Carey is rock and roll, but given that they like extended the standards essentially of what they are considering rock and roll, she should absolutely be in it. Like at this point, what are they doing? I do, however, have a personal vendetta against Mariah Carey because one time when she was going to perform at the NBC Christmas tree lighting, we went to go see her do it live. And then she kept us all out waiting in the freezing cold rain for like 3 hours until she decided to not show up. And then she had to sing it live. And if you recall, it was the really disastrous performance where the raw soundtrack, this raw vocal track went viral because it was so bad. So that was like her karma, I believe. But the thing is, she's known as a diva. Like, do we think there's a conspiracy theory here? Do you think somebody at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has a personal vendetta against her and by the way, I'm joking. Mariah Carey, I'm not on your bad side. I love you. You're great. But do we think someone at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does not? And
I do have my theories about what's happening here. But I do want to get to the point that you made earlier, which is a good one of, look, if we are interpreting like the phrase rock and roll and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame very narrowly and saying, you know, you have to be a rock and roll artist to be in, that's fine. But once you let Aretha Franklin in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
or even like Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah, Cyndi Lauper.
Pop.
Right.
It's not really rock and roll.
And Outkast just got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Dolly Parton is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So it's pretty clear that they are casting a wider net genre-wise than what the name of the Hall of Fame says. And once you've done that, you can't not have the biggest female pop artist of all time in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, to your point of like why they're keeping her out, like I can give a lot of like, you know, arguments about like, you know, sales, popularity versus critical acclaim, blah, blah, blah. But I think this is they're just a bunch of jelly rolls, you know, a bunch of jelly people in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they don't like that she's sold all these records and made lots of money. And, you know, they just want to take her down a peg. Before the break, I was talking about how there was this long movement in Hollywood where we just didn't give beautiful actresses Oscars unless like they uglied themselves up for a role like Charlize Theron in Monster. Like then we'll let you have one, right?
Yeah.
And so like this is just like she's the popular girl And all of the, kids who got stuffed into lockers in high school want to get back at her for being popular. And so this is their way of like, oh, we're not going to let you into this club, or at least we're going to nominate you 3 or 4 times and make you wait before we let you into the club. And if she's good enough to get in 3 years from now, she's good enough to get in now. This is ridiculous.
It almost feels like and I feel this every year, that like it has to be random. It has to be completely someone who's really old, someone that's like picked out of thin air. Like it can't be obvious. It can't be like, oh, Mariah Carey, of course she should be in there. It's like we have to put the most obscure group of people together. And I feel like Mariah Carey is too on the nose that they're just going to keep her waiting until they're like, I guess we need someone else, so we might as well just do Mariah Carey.
They're waiting for a slow year.
Yeah, exactly. Even though she's the most obvious choice, like, I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like the combination of people that they pick is so incredibly random, and it doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason whatsoever to it. So, I mean, I don't have the answer, but
I love they're waiting for a slow year. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, well, I mean, we had Soundgarden this year.
Well,
we're good.
We'll give Mariah an award.
So, yeah, maybe like 2 or 3 years from now, there's going to be like a lull, and we'll fill it with Mariah Carey. But again, like what an insult to somebody who's not just like a great artist and a great female artist, but like the best. Like if you're making the argument, like, I mean, more number one singles than Taylor Swift.
Like, do you actually think she is the best female artist, like in your opinion? Are you
in terms of like, if like complete combination of technical raw skill and commercial success, like putting those two things together, I don't think there's a better total combination than Mariah Carey. Okay. And this is like somebody who like, my love for Taylor Swift has been made quite evident on this program.
Yeah, but I do not think Taylor would stand a chance in that race, because she is a phenomenal songwriter and she's proven herself as a good performer and an athlete, but like she's not the best singer or dancer to that end.
Yeah.
Like Mariah definitely has her beat, because Mariah is also a songwriter and she's a great songwriter. For me though, I would put Lady Gaga above Mariah Carey, I'll be honest with you, but I think it's a really solid argument that you have, and we can
Well, I'm sure the Hall of Fame will put Lady Gaga in before Mariah Carey, so you got that going for you.
Whoever's roster pick gets in first wins $20.
That'll be fun. Let's make that happen. The whole thing's stressing me out, Katie Zaccardi, and which makes sense because April is Stress Awareness Month. And so this is the time for us to be stressed out about things. But thankfully, our friends at the Passion Fruit blog have become aware of the fact that, stress is obviously a huge issue for creators, and wanted to write a piece about how creators can handle stress better. They interviewed 5 artists and asked them how they handle stress. And, they had some great advice in that article. Here's some of the highlights. Nick Nauturn from Nightmind says that planning is his best stress relief. When things get overwhelming, he makes a plan that actually excites him, and it reminds him that he's solved tough problems before. Suraj Chowdhury of The Normies recommends taking real breaks, gym, games, music, or even simple breathing exercises, just anything to reset your nervous system. Other stress management advice from the article includes getting away from screens and doing things like journaling and painting instead, reducing multitasking and focusing more on the immediate task ahead, or engaging in one of my favorite stress relief practices, time blocking. Overall, the article's message is creator burnout is real, and we're going to recognize it here in April, and managing that stress means being intentional with your time, your energy, and your headspace. I was pretty happy to see this article flash across my screen, knowing that I have a Katie Zaccardi episode coming up, because I know in your coaching practice, you are regularly counseling creators in managing stress, because we're in a stressful field.
Yeah.
Interested in your perspective on stress management for creators. What do you tell some of your clients in this area?
Yeah, well, I thought all the tips in this were great. Also, I'm definitely giggling at you being like, it's Stress Awareness Month, so it's a great time to be stressed.
Yeah, if you're gonna be stressed, like let's do it in the month where we're all aware of it.
We're all aware of it. Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, don't waste that stress in November when we don't give a damn about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
This is the month. Get your
How will
stress
you
in
know to deal
now.
with it if not for now? I think all the tips that were mentioned are fantastic. I have been actually talking a lot with my clients in our group coaching about separating or carving out time for music to also be joyful and just connecting back to creativity, because I find that when you are a musician, even if you're not full-time, and in fact sometimes I think it's can be worse in some instances when you're not full-time, because if you have another full or part-time job and then you're trying to squeeze in extra hours where you're doing business tasks, marketing tasks, writing songs, practicing for your gig, booking gigs, well, music can start to feel like a chore, and then it starts to feel stressful, and then you feel really overwhelmed. And so one of the things that we've been talking about is finding ways to get back to just like creating just to create with no agenda, or playing music just to like let your process your emotions, because singing and dancing and moving your body or even playing an instrument is a really great way to process your emotions and to emotionally regulate. So using music as a tool and noticing that even though we might be doing this as a career and therefore it might be causing stress, we need to carve out some time to get back to the basics and just let it be a tool of healing as well. So that's just one small thing that's been coming up recently, but there are tons of other things I could say.
But that is one of the most intriguing struggles that I see creators go through when they go through stressful periods. Is sometimes the thing when you're going through a stressful time as a creator, I've seen this before, the one thing that's going to help some creators is leaning more into the thing that they love. You know, because creating art has a therapeutic value for you. And sometimes that's the last thing that you should be doing when you stress out. You need to step away from the creative and let your batteries recharge, kind of cleanse the palate before you get back in there again.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a straight answer. Like, how does a creator know when it's, you know, when the cure is to create more and when the cure is to create less?
Well, I think it's the context, because let's say I'm getting frustrated because I'm writing a song and I can't figure out the bridge. Okay. The solution, in my opinion, is not to keep hammering out at that song, but it doesn't mean I can't still use music to cope. Or for instance, I'm getting really overwhelmed looking at a spreadsheet of booking gigs and that's music related. So then what do I do from there, right? I think there are other things, like you can sing karaoke in your car. Like, for the record, it doesn't have to be that serious. Like, have fun. You can sing karaoke in your car. You could sing karaoke at karaoke. You could meet up with some other musician friends and have a harmonization jam session. You could sing covers, because that's going to distance you from your original music. You could just blast music in your apartment while you cook and like dance around a little bit. So I think that like you do need to get away. If there's a specific task or a specific agenda that's overwhelming you, you do need to get away from that instead of just like pushing through that. But it doesn't mean that you have to do away with music or creativity in general. And allow me to add that creativity comes in many different ways. So maybe you're working on a song and you're stuck with the song and you're trying to spark creativity, and you know, you don't need to sing karaoke. You don't need to get your feelings out. You just want to like be inspired. Go take a walk, paint, knit. Like, there's a billion things that you could do that are creative without imposing on your music, that can serve your overall goals, your overall stress levels, and help you get back to creativity again.
That's a pretty good way to kind of, know which approach to take, like do the more creating versus less creating door. I tend to be a big fan of time blocking, as the article talked about, in terms of managing stress. And look, I might not know creator stress because I wouldn't purport to be a creator except, when we're doing podcasting. But I got me some lawyer stress. I know a little bit about that kind of stress. And our profession is pretty big on stress. And one of the things that I do that is very, very helpful in helping me manage stress is blocking off my time and being very single-minded about what I do in different blocks of time. Stress tends to be, when you have a lot of things to do, stress tends to be the reaction of the whole of all of your things that are stressing you out being greater than the sum of their parts, right? You might have 3 or 4 things that you have to do, and they're all like 2 out of 10 in terms of stress. But when they all come together and you try to think about all of them at the same time, it's like synergizing, and suddenly you feel like you're at a 15 when really it's not really 15. It's just that like they're all coming together and making you feel like it's more overwhelming than it is. And so when you're in that moment, you know, it's good to block off your time. Like this, on this day, I'm going to focus on this task. I'm going to block off time to do this. And then while I'm singularly focused on this, the other stuff is in the background. I already have it scheduled to do those things in the other parts of the week. And so I'm not going to worry about them. I'm not going to think about them because I already know that I have time blocked off to worry about those things later. And when you do that, when you can take the mental load of those stressors off your head and put them in the other days of the week where you're going to worry about them, it's going to make you a lot less stressed. And that's so important for creators because creators aren't just creators anymore, right? Especially now with this indie artist movement, you're all running businesses now. You're all doing legal stuff now. You're doing your own books now. You're handling your own bookings. And so you're going to have a lot of things on your plate. And if you think about all your things at the same time and you try to do them all at the same time, you're going to get stressed. You got to get organized. You got to block your time.
100%. And I live and breathe by my Google Calendar for that reason. Because if you put a task on there and you time block, you can kind of check it off the mental box and then revisit it when it's time for that.
I'm envisioning a super colorful Google Calendar for you, right? You're color coding your tasks. Absolutely.
Correct.
Oh, I love that. Before we go to break, Katie, I do want to do something that we don't do nearly enough around here, and then it stresses me out because they pile up. We need to do a listener question because the listener question bin is getting very, very tall right now, and it's stressing me out here. And so let's take one off that I think is a pretty interesting one and talk about it on the air. The question reads, "Hey, Ryan, I've been working with a freelance video creator I met online to help me make my videos. I want to use the final videos in a monetized YouTube series and eventually pitch the concept to networks. Do I need a contract with this creator? And do I own the footage they edited?" Very cool question.
Yeah,
glad that this one was on the top of the pile. And given how much creators are working with other creators to get things done nowadays, this makes a lot of sense. So generally, if the question is, do I need a contract? My lawyer hat is always going to say yes. It's always better to have a contract. And it's always better for that contract to be in writing, if for no other reason that a written document in which everybody says what the terms are, make sure that you don't have a situation where people differ on what deal you agreed to later, right? Get it all written down so that there's no confusion. But specifically, when you're talking about having somebody create a work for you that is a freelancer or helping you create a work that's a freelancer, it is doubly, triply, quadruply important for you to get a written contract. And here's why. If your goal is you want to own the thing that freelancer helped create for you, you need to make their contribution to that work a work made for hire. You all probably heard that term before. It's a copyright term that means somebody else made the work, but you own the work, a work made for hire. And when that person that is working for you is not a employee, is not a W-2 employee, but is instead like a freelance 1099 contractor that you hired, the law says that for their work to be independent contractor work, you need a written contract that specifically says that the thing that they are doing for you is a work made for hire. So if you want to make 100% sure that that video series that they're working on is going to be completely owned by you, you need them to sign something before they started that work that says, this is a work made for hire. You are the owner of it, so that you are fully in line with what the American Copyright Act says. That is so, so very important. And in those written documents, I always, for clients, will include three different clauses in there that all have to do with copyright ownership. It's like the three-legged stool of I get to own this thing that I'm paying for. One is a line that says that the other person disclaims any ownership interest in the work, so you don't have to worry about them arguing later that they're a co-author. Two, it says this is a work made for hire, so that you have that written magic language in your written contract. And three, it's always good to have this backup clause that says, if for whatever reason the law says that this is not a work made for hire, I, the freelancer, hereby assign all right, title, and interest to you. So that freelancer is going to sign something that says, I'm not a co-writer in this work, a co-author. This is a work made for hire. And if for any reason it's not a work made for hire, I'm transferring the copyright over to you. And then you are on firm ground and you can happily and freely pitch your work to these networks and hoping for the best, because that sounds like a pretty fun project.
It does. And I'm glad we talked about this. Now, Ryan, can you give any pro tips? What if let's say one of the videos was already created before the listener thought to ask this question? Can anything be done retroactively to make sure or to divvy up the rights, or are they kind of out of luck?
Yeah. So we'll create a little pamphlet that says so you forgot to do the work for hire thing. I would still have that freelancer sign the document, right? Because generally you have to do the work, and most courts will say you have to do the work made for hire before the work starts. But have them sign that three-legged stool contract anyway, because even if the work made for hire part fails, you still have language in which they say they're transferring the rights to you. So you still have the backup plan. It's not as good as work made for hire, but it still means you own the work and you can pitch to the networks and things like that. Mm-hmm. That's still better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
And putting yourself at risk of that person coming out of the woodwork later and saying, I own the work. By the way, when you work with freelancers on certain websites like Fiverr, a lot of those freelancers have like standard terms in their Fiverr contracts that specifically lay all this stuff out. But don't necessarily depend on and assume that that's the case, right? Actually review their paperwork and make sure that you're getting the rights to that work. And if there's any doubt, make the freelancer sign your own contract in addition to their contract that makes these points clear. I've done this for clients before where they work with somebody on Fiverr or Upwork or something. That person has a standard contract and I don't love their legal terms. I supply my own legal terms for the client and have the freelancer sign that so that there's absolutely no doubt.
Love it. Now you can't possibly mess up, listeners. You have all the information you need.
And always should mention, of course, recall the disclaimer at the beginning of the show. I am a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. This is not legal advice. Every situation is different. Talk to an attorney before you pursue whatever you're going to pursue on your specific legal situation. All right. Let us take a break, and then we're going to be joined by Clara Venice here on Break the Business. Don't go anywhere. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan Kairalla, PA. Ryan Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. If we can't put Mariah Carey in the Hall of Fame, can we at least let her whistle register in?
Touche.
Like, I mean, like when she does that, like, thing, let's at least let that into the Hall of Fame, because that is a Hall of Fame whistle register, even if we don't want to let the rest of it in right now.
Yeah, I simply cannot argue with that. So
do you know what I love about Mariah Carey songs? I mean, other than everything, but like the anatomy of every Mariah Carey song is almost identical in a lot of ways. Like they all start the same way, like, soft and breathy and slow, and then like romantic. And then by the last verse, she's doing like the full on belting, when you left, I lost a part of me. And like she just full on, right? And then at some point in there, whistle register. And every song, and it's the same, and it's wonderful every time. And you always leave smiling at a rock and roll hall or at a Mariah Carey song. Let her into the Hall of Fame. Y'all are ridiculous.
The Freudian slip of all slips.
Yeah,
at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame concert, at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
They just, I mean, I said what I said. Just, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's wonderful. Let us bring in our guest this week.
She dances in the glow of electric skies with melodies that shimmer like fireflies. Her world of sound, a handcrafted dream where reality drips soft like a moonlit stream. Clara waves through the sonic sea, boundless beauty in her melody. Innovating every note she plays, a bright star carving her own ways.
Our guest this week is an electronic music artist and entrepreneur who has dedicated a big part of her career to creating more inclusive and accessible music tech gear. Our guest's latest single, To the Light, dropped earlier this year, and you can find out more about our guest's work by visiting claravenice.com. We are happy to welcome Clara Venice on to Break the Business. Hi, Clara.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I was really enjoying listening to the whole conversation. And, the Mariah Carey thing really makes me think of the Barbie movie, because remember, like when that just didn't get nominated for anything, well, at least as director, best actress, and Ken did. But, I have a theory about the Barbie movie, the reason why that didn't happen.
I want to hear this.
Okay. So did you notice in the Barbie movie, when Ken comes to take over, Barbie Land, did you notice what he brings to do it? He brought in synthesizers. And he brought in a ton of black synthesizers and started playing. Now that I've told you, go back and watch it. I'm like, he didn't come in with guns, but he did come in with a bunch of gear. And I was like, and you know what? Barbie didn't have one pink synthesizer. And I went to that movie. I was like, you know what? This is going to be great. Like, she's got pink everything in that movie, pink chessboard, pink garbage cans, pink, whatever you can imagine, it's pink. And she didn't have one instrument. And it was very disappointing to me. So my theory about the Oscar snub is that Ken got all the music in the movie. He got to sing that great song. He got the synthesizers. He got the guitars. Let me sing at you, Barbie. And like all the Ken had the power of music. The Barbie had no voice. Then look what happens. Ken gets nominated and he sings the song at the Oscars, and it's like, oh my God, I think, and like I just did a lecture about this. If you can believe it, was about Barbie and pink synthesizers at Scripps University, and I think it's worth looking into.
I think all of this is meant to say that Clara just absolutely agrees with me, Katie, and she knows an injustice when she sees
I do,
one.
and I love Mariah Carey. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you do, because you have
she sounds like a
wonderful
theremin,
taste.
and it's very
She sounds-
theremin.
She does, like, that whistle register is like the theremin of so let's talk about this theremin, okay? Because we have not had a theremin, at least to my knowledge, have not had a theremin player on Break the Business. It is not what I would call the more popular of the pop instruments these days, but
No.
you have like made it a big part of what you do. And so I have to ask, like, is the industry sleeping on the theremin right now?
100%. I mean,
Before we get there, can you actually explain what a theremin
Yes.
is? It's like, I don't even know.
100%.
Maybe I'm
You'll know it when you
100%.
hear it, but yeah.
maybe,
Well-
yeah, maybe, but
So the theremin, the way that I like to explain it is that, it just has gotten, it needs a rebrand. Like it just needs a rebrand, because the problem is that it's a very long story. I could try to condense it. The theremin is one of the very earliest electronic instruments. It was invented in Russia by a man named Leon Terman, who was commissioned by Lenin to create a symbol of the power of the Soviet Union over the new god electricity. So he creates this instrument, and it's the first, it's like, oh my God, it's the only instrument that you play without touching it. People are freaking out. Lenin's like, go on tour. Like, we need people to understand, our power, because at the time it was like Christianity was on the decline, but electricity was the new god. So he goes and starts touring, and people are literally, he went and played in Paris, and there was a riot. Like, it was a huge thing. And people were also very upset because they're like, this instrument's going to replace the orchestra, like, crazy stuff. Like, oh my God. And, because it also was making music out of electricity. So it was very controversial. Then he ends up in New York, and he had a studio there. Little known fact that Albert Einstein at the time, because, he had a very interesting group hanging out with him, because he was like doing this, and also invented a theremin dance floor. That was like a dance floor that you'd had to like go, and then it would make music. And a very early drum machine. Like, really, he was mad. I mean, not mad, but like mad in a good way, genius. And, so he was in New York. Einstein was working on his theory, equals MC squared, got a room in Theremin's studio and would just hang out and listen to the theremin. He loved it. No, people don't talk about that. But anyways, so then what happens?
We don't hear much about Einstein's theremin period.
for Einstein's musical taste. You know what I'm
No, so
saying?
then, I don't think he played it. I think he literally was just like, oh my God, because, well, I'll get to the punchline after. So
I'm
what
going to take a
happens
break
is-
from all these physics and play the theremin with a bunch of communists.
But listen, but the thing is, he was working on the theory of relativity. This is a theory about energy. The theremin is the instrument. This is me talking. It's the instrument that you play with your energy, with your aura. This is an intention training device. You're manifesting music out of thin air. And to me, the theremin is proof that your energy can change the world. Because watch. Okay, so here's like, I'm not going to touch it. So.
Okay, what?
I'm having fun right now.
Right? And it would be, like, I wish that you
How
guys
did you
could.
do that? How did
Right?
you do that?
Okay, so what you do, and this is,
Cracking out.
so let me explain now how it works. Oh, and by the way, just to end that story, theremin disappeared one day after selling the patents to RCA, and RCA had this ad campaign, like a theremin in every home. They started producing them. Then one day theremin disappears, and they're like, uh-oh, he must have died, because nobody knew where he was. The New York Times wrote his obituary, and years later, the very journalist who had written his obituary for the New York Times was walking down the street in Moscow, and sees him and was like, oh my God, I thought you were dead. Like, what happened to you? And he's like, oh, Stalin kidnapped me and sent me to Siberia, literally, where he had to start inventing surveillance equipment that Stalin ended up using, but against his will. Like, he hated it, but he was forced to. And so the spy gear that Stalin used was actually made by Theremin, a lot of it. Including what he used to spy on the American. I mean, it's wild, the story. But then he got released because he was such a soldier. And then, they just left him in this tiny apartment. And I personally, I just think it's a tragic story because he is just an incredible figure. And now that I've gone back, because, sometimes I get a hard time from the theremin community, to be honest, because I like to make this as accessible as possible. And there is something about the theremin where people like to gatekeep it. I don't know why. Like, it makes no sense to me because this is a very hard instrument to play. And if somebody actually tries it, they understand, oh, wow, it takes a lot of skill. But like when I went on tour with Bare Naked Ladies, that was like my first tour where I was like playing in stadiums from small clubs to these huge venues, and people had no idea what the theremin was. They thought that I was playing it with, like, if I had a scrunchie on my hand, they're like, oh, your bracelets are making music. I was like, no, like my mind is making music. So the way that it works is it has two antennas. This is the pitch antenna and this is the volume antenna here. Okay, here. So this one is the volume, it's a loop, and then the pitch is a up and down antenna like this. Sure. And if you move your hand away from the pitch antenna, the pitch will get lower. And as you move it closer, it gets higher. And then with the volume antenna, if you move your hand up and down, it gets louder and quieter. So the typical theremin sound would be more like this. So what you'd kind of expect.
Yeah, that's the theremin I know, the one where ghosts show up.
But then if this one has a lot of cool features, I love the theremin. So for example,
Katie, I don't even want to ask her interview questions. I just want her to do theremin for the next 20 minutes.
Wait, so Sarah, what are you changing? Are you changing like just effects or something like that?
Yeah. So this one has a lot. You can create your own presets. You can make this completely customized. I created these customization kits. So I am like a brand ambassador for Moog for this instrument. And I'm the only artist for, that can sell these because, Moog is very particular about who gets to sell their instruments. So I was like, there are a lot of people buying these because I was like, I want to make some money off of that because I should, because and so that's been cool. And I have the kits and, but my greatest joy, honestly, is that I get to introduce people, like the joy of people not knowing about the instrument is that I can introduce it to people and it blows their minds. It's like, is that magic? Well, yes, it's magic, but it's science, but it's magic. And so like when you were talking earlier about mental health, people ask me a lot, like, listen, I've had a lot of experiences with the theremin. Very interesting. Like auras are real and all of this stuff. But the thing is, if you're having a bad day and you sit at the theremin and you're like, okay, I'm having a bad day, and you start to play. Okay, maybe with that sound, maybe with a sound.
That is the sound I hear in my head when I'm having a bad day.
Exactly. Maybe with it, but even like take the typical sound, right? So okay, so you're having a bad day. You start to play, and it's out of control. It's like you're trying to hit notes because what you're doing is imagining a long, invisible thread that is coming out of this antenna. And then you're moving your fingers along this invisible string. Okay, And it's hard to do because you have to really focus. Like I say, I'm using my intentions to really create the music out of the air, and you have to focus it. When I started reading more about Theremin's ideas around this instrument at the beginning, he was like, this is not an instrument, it's an intention training device. And I'm like, yes, like I get that, because when you start to play it, if you're frazzled, the notes don't come. And then what you really need to do is like, you really need to ground yourself and then tune in. And like, you really have to do that. And then it's a meditation. I'm a terrible meditator. My mind, I've got ADD, like my mind is crazy. I can't do it. But this calms me, centers me, focuses me. I can feel like the energy just getting better. And I think this is an amazing device. Like as a technology, I'm like, why hasn't this had its real moment? Well, it started to get used in sci-fi movies. And there was this one guy in Hollywood who taught himself how to play the theremin and kept getting hired for all the sci-fi movies, horror movies. Same guy, if you look at it, right? And then one day, the theremin just fell out of favor. He passed away and nobody else could play it. So it just kind of disappeared in like the 60s, 70s. And so, now I can, like, I do a lot of events where I'll go into a school because, these poor kids, like, they don't have music in schools a lot of the time now. And, the arts are being cut. And so, like, part of what I love to do, like, I guess my giving back is I go into schools and I show the kids the theremin. And then I get these like 5-year-old girls asking their parents, because I've got rainbow hair. It's like, oh, I want a theremin, like mommy, daddy, and I'm like, that's really important. And that got me started on the whole thing about, it's not just 5-year-olds, it's everyone needs, to me, needs a way to unlock their musicianship and to be able to reconnect with that part of us that we're born with. And the theremin is so intuitive, just in the sense that you find a sound that you like. Okay, no, but okay. Like for this one, like, okay. And this one has a kind of auto tune feature. So let's say you're learning. Okay, I'll go back to the original sound, but let's say you were learning. This can be very intimidating to actually find the notes, but then you turn this on. And you can program it to any key and any scale. So you can immediately start, playing along with your favorite songs. So I think it's so, and, from there it was like, yes, people gravitate towards different sound waves. People gravitate towards different sounds. People play it in all sorts of weird ways. And I love that because it's new territory. And it's not like people won't approach. I'm a violinist since I was 4, like classically trained, but people will not approach the violin in a playful way. But people will just be like, oh, can I try the theremin? Like, yes, you can. And like, maybe some people are gifted and some people just have fun. But yeah, this is one of my best friends.
I love that. And from what a lot of what you were talking about there in terms of like wanting to go to schools and get young people interested in the instrument, all of that kind of feeds into what I know is a huge passion project of yours, which is just an overall mission to try to make music and music gear more accessible. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what does accessibility mean to you in this context? Are we talking about like just generally more accessible to the public? Are you talking about certain underserved populations who aren't getting enough music and making it more accessible to them?
Okay, this is the thing. So for me, the people that I'm most interested in are the underserved communities are women and femmes who are interested in electronic music and producing music. Like production, the world of production right now is like the craziest thing. 98% of the producers, I'm sure you've heard these statistics, but it's like 98% of the producers in the music industry are guys. Like, that is crazy to me, because there is nothing inherently in music production that makes it gendered one way or the other. So then, for me, I'm like looking at it. Well, I'm a producer. I love producing music, but I love technology, right? But also I want my technology to match my aesthetic and my lifestyle. And so what happened was I started going into all these schools and seeing 10-year-old girls with perfect makeup making TikToks that I was like, you guys are so good at this, and it's hard. Like, what you're doing is really complicated. And if you can do that, you can produce music. And like, so why aren't they? That was the thing. And then I was like, there's no entry point for these girls. So, and it's not just girls. There are a lot of guys that also appreciate this approach, but basically it's like, my gear needs to match my aesthetic. Arturia sent this to me. They're one of my favorite brands. I love them. They get it. And they're like, let me send you this beautiful MIDI controller. And they're producing that. And I think we need more instruments that are lifestyle items. And because I think as an artist, and Katie, you can tell me what you think about this, but it's like, to me, the value of music right now and the value of art and being an artist has become so devalued because of the ubiquity of music everywhere. And a lot of the music that surrounds us is not actually made by artists. It's like, Spotify has their ghost artists, and there's just so much disposable sound. And the value of creating music, I think, is getting lost. And I think one of the reasons for that is that the production has become so fractured and dissociated from the actual product. So you've got the production is, a lot of people don't know what a producer is. This is what I've learned. Like, they don't even know. And I was like, well, the producer's really important, not just for the business side, but also they're creating the actual atmosphere and the sound and the vibe. And that's what people are responding to. So it's like the people creating those sounds are very important. And right now they're mostly the same handful of guys who are creating so much of the music that we are constantly surrounded by. And I'm like, what would happen if it was democratized? Like, and that there were more approaches. Like, I'm finding a lot of sounds to be very hard right now. And I'm very, like, I like soft. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying everything needs to go that way. I'm just saying we can take a lot of different approaches. So in terms of that, you were talking about astrology before. Why not teach music through astrology? Why? Because I think that music has to be returned to the people, in the sense that at one time it was more usual for people to just take piano lessons, not to be like, oh, you're going to be a famous pianist. It's just like you're playing piano, like you're just getting, a basis. And I'm like, right now, what would be the piano of our time? It would be probably a laptop and probably Ableton or a production software. So I think that, that's a valid instrument. And if more people engaged with it, then I think we'd get a lot, it would just be, we'd have more inclusivity, more diversity. Songs would be about different things. We would be using different sounds. Who knows? We don't know what it would be like, because we haven't achieved that yet, that kind of inclusivity. So I think that, like, that's my vision for a world of many producers that, because when you Google how to do a technique on YouTube, and I'm trying to, how do I like sidechain compression or whatever, it's always a guy in a studio, like making beats. And that is not everybody is going to gravitate towards that kind of aesthetic.
I feel like you just gave a whole TED talk.
I'm sorry.
No, in a good way.
I'm sorry.
Whoa. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been thinking about it for a while. I don't mean to like,
you're
I'm just
brilliant.
yeah.
Like it's so true.
Yeah.
And it's making me think too of there's a song that I wrote years ago. It's called Cry Right. And it was like mostly a joking song that I made to send to my friend about when you're upset about something, but you
Aw.
like cry, you know, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh my
Totally.
God, if I could just freaking cry, then I'd feel so much better. But like you can't cry. And it's like funny. It's like a funny song.
Yeah,
Funny.
yes.
One of my guy friends was like learning to produce and like he wasn't getting it. And my
Yeah.
brother helped me. He got a little close just to create a fun demo. But I'm like,
Yeah.
the song is like for the girlies.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
person
yeah.
who produced this is another girly who gets it. And
Yes.
it's really hard to come by. It is
That
incredibly
is
hard to
what
come
I'm
by.
saying. And you know, it's different. And I love guys. Like I'm not saying, you know, this isn't like, oh, whatever. Like if it wasn't for guys, I would not, you know, all my opportunities have come from men. And that's like partly because of the way that it's structured, the industry is structured, but still they taught me how to produce. My father from a very young age taught me how to produce music. My mentors in production are guys. Like it's not like that, but there is a different approach. Like I like to include environmental sounds in my recordings. There are things where, you know, it's just a different approach. I'm not trying to like shut out all the noise, for example. There's just differences that I notice that like, and it's not, you know, it's a weird thing now to even talk about gender, but it's just like there's kind of more masculine approaches, more feminine approaches. And so one feminine way that I like to approach, and I've been doing this with a lot of my friends, is you can make a sonic birth chart. And so there's this history of the tone zodiac, and where people have, like, there have been so many attempts since Pythagoras to kind of overlay music and math, really, and frequencies. And so there have been all these attempts to say, okay, well, the key of Aries is C, and, you know, you should look into it. It's like a crazy rabbit hole. Even the mode, so like Dorian mode might be associated with Venus or whatever. So I started doing this thing where I'm like, oh, let's make you a sonic birth chart, and just going through their planets and choosing sounds and then making a track for them, where the response to that has been so great. And all these girls that I never thought would be interested in production at all are like, oh my God, I want Ableton. I want to do that. And my Ableton, by the way, is like so customized. It's so cute. It's also pink and blue. Like I make them all match. And, you know, so I think there's something about it where it's just fun, and like music can be fun. Like your song, I want to hear it. That I need that song, like, because that's relatable. And so I think also now with like the rise of AI and all of that, like we need this kind of human connection and this sharing, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be entertainment in the same way that we look at our artists. And, you know, there's like huge entertainment, but then there's also a more intimate side of music that I crave. And so I'm trying to, you know, create that, and then also share the tools and like stop gatekeeping all of it. Because I think if you just say to people, you know what, producing's not that hard, it's not that complicated, like it really isn't, it's really fun, then I don't know, like I think that we can get more people doing it. So that's my theory and my hope. And I'm actually launching a Substack soon, like very soon, in May, to create some opportunities for people to like learn. And I'll do live streams, and I'll share, you know, all of these things that I've been working on, because at this point it's important.
And please let us know when you get that up and running. We'd love to
I
invite
will.
you back to tell us all about it. Find out more about our guest work by visiting claravenice.com. Clara Venice here on Break the Business. Before we let you go, Clara, I got one final question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
I think you should learn how to produce your own music, and then you can just release it, get it out there, get it to the people that you want to hear it, and find your people. Because the way that things are going, that's what it's about. Just find your people. And producing is the way that you know, get it in your hands, empower yourself. It's fun too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your insight, Claire. And thank you for bringing the theremin into our lives. Producer Lauren tells us that we are going to be closing tonight's broadcast with a song of yours that we're going to play right at the end of this show. I'm so excited for that. So let me just close by saying our thanks to Clara Venice and Katie Zaccardi. Thanks to producer Lauren. And thanks to all of you for checking out Break the Business. We will see you next week, and enjoy this song.
It happens every night, 'cause both of us can't be right. It happens every night, you walk away. I want to be with you, I want to spend the night through, but it seems lately that we fight 20 times a day. I got this feeling I should believe you when you say that you're leaving, and maybe we won't be okay. If I could turn back time, I'd do it oh so slowly. I'd hold you in the light and treat you oh so perfectly. If I could read your mind, I wonder if I'd find myself. And if you believe in love, take me to the light. The light. Take me to the light. It happens every time we put our hearts on the line. It happens every time I walk away. Can't love make lovers blind. You want your world to be right. I know you care for me. Maybe it's too much. I got this feeling I should believe you when you say that you're leaving, and this time we won't be okay. If I could turn back time, I'd do it oh so slowly. I'd hold you in the light and never let you go. If I could read your mind, I wonder if I'd still there. And if you believe in love, take me to the light. I got this feeling I should believe you when you say